Hello everyone, I've had a few requests to show Winlator on the RP5. So Winlator is something that lets you emulate Windows and Windows games. So if we run the Winlator environment, so far it's not working very well. I need to do some more testing and configuring of the software, but for now I'll show you what I have. I'm running at 1080p, so the icons are absolutely tiny, but along the top we have Skyrim, Far Cry 2, Lego The Lord of the Rings, Neverwinter Nights, Stardew Valley, and Sid Meier's Pirates. So these are the games that I'm trying to get running first of all. These are some games that I have. So let's start with Skyrim. Skyrim is a very black game, so you're going to see how reflective the screen is. It's actually quite hard to show it on the camera because it's so shiny and glossy. With Skyrim, I actually wasn't able to get into the game. I was able to launch into the intro, but then it always freezes, and it seems like it's actually frozen already this time. It freezes usually during the cart ride to the intro. So I'm going to see if I can get a mod to skip straight to the character creation part of the game. But for now, Skyrim is not working. Next up we have Far Cry 2. Now this one I set up last night and it was actually working really well. But now today for some reason the controller has stopped working. So I'm forced to use the touchscreen. But it does work pretty well. It's running around 40 frames per second. And it seems to be running pretty well. So Far Cry 2, if I can get the controller working again like it was yesterday, Far Cry 2 is working pretty well. It definitely seems playable on Winlator on the RP5. So if you want to play some Far Cry 2 on Windows, you can do that on the RP5. And that's honestly mind-blowing to me that we can be emulating Windows like this. So let's get out of this and play another game that hopefully is going to be completely working, including the controller. So this is Lego Lord of the Rings, and I found that if I touch anything while it's loading, it freezes and breaks. But if I just leave it alone and let it do its thing, once it's loaded up, it seems to be working. I haven't launched the game yet, but all the menus seem to be working really well. We just need to let this intro play out, because the last time I tried to skip it, it just froze the whole thing. Okay, now we're in the menu. What we can do is, the controller works very well. We can go through and set this to full screen. So if we go to video settings, and change this to 1080p, except we've now got full screen Lord of the Rings Lego on the RP5 in Windows. So let's start a new game and see how well it runs.
9 rings were gifted to the race of men, who above all else desire power.
Okay, I'm in the game. Seems to control well. I was getting 40 frames per second and it's now frozen. You can see the issue I'm having with Winlator. Most of the games I'm playing just freeze after a while, so I think I need to play with some of the settings and get it up and running a little bit better. But you can see the potential. Here. We're running Windows, we're getting around 40 frames per second in most of the games. We just need to fix the hang-ups, the stuttering, and the freezes. Neverwinter Nights is a game that I saw my friend play when I was a kid. I went to his home and he showed me the game, but then wouldn't let me play it. So all of my life, pretty much, I've been wanting to play this game. This is a game that's, I think, very much a mouse and keyboard game. I don't think it's going to work very well with the touch controls. So we can create a new game here. We'll just use one of the pre-made characters. And you can hear this one's not running particularly well, 24 frames per second. It might be a little bit too taxing for the Pocket, but you can definitely get into the game, run around, only around 15 frames per second. So if we can increase the performance mode to high performance, you'll then hear the fan come on, and the fan is actually obnoxiously high-pitched. But that might give us another few frames. It seems like it's not really making much of a difference. We're running at around 16 frames per second. Now let's try and connect maybe a keyboard and mouse to this. It might make a nicer experience. So now I'm controlling with a mouse. We can also add a keyboard. I'm not sure what function the keyboard really has in this game, but you'll see the keyboard is working. And then if we want to really make this like a computer, we can also add a much bigger screen. This is a portable monitor. I'll add this USB-C cable for charging. And then if I want to connect the Pocket to the screen, I can just use a USB-C to C cable. So here is one side USB-C and the other side USB-C goes into my portable monitor. And then you should see we now have the game running on a big screen. The screen of the Pocket turns off, and now we have it running on here. And it still supports touch control, this particular screen that I have. And now we can run all of our games on this big screen. You'll notice the particular screen I have is very washed out, and it's not usually. There's something going on here. But if I now use my mouse as well, and I can now play on this big screen. So this is something that I will test a lot more. I'll try and find more PC games that work well on this screen. Maybe something like Civilization or some other kind of PC games. I'd love to try a MOBA on this. But for now, let's get back to just the Pocket itself and try out a couple more games. If I put this up to my microphone, you can really hear this. Pretty loud. I would be uncomfortable using this in a public place. At least a quiet public place. So I'm going to set this back to regular performance mode. We then get access to the quiet fan mode, and that's pretty much silent. Next up is Sid Meier's Pirates. This is a game that I've never actually played, but I've heard a lot of people say it's just fantastic. And I do like pirates. It seems like another game that we're not really going to be able to use the controls for. It seems very much a mouse and keyboard game. So this is interesting. When I use the on-screen control, you can see there's a little sword, which is my cursor, and I cannot click anything. I thought it was broken. But if I use a real mouse, and I actually don't move the cursor over the item itself, but kind of to the side, you can see these lighting up. So it seems like there's a bit of an error with the location of the cursor. It might be to do with the resolution or something else. So if I click to the side of it, I actually can get it running, but it doesn't seem to be running very well with the device itself. Okay, name incognito. Sure, it seems like this is going to pretty much require a mouse and keyboard. I think what we can do in Winlator is actually bring up a keyboard like this. It tells us we need to press enter. So if I can bring up a keyboard, although it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe because I've got a physical one attached. Let's use my actual keyboard for now. Push enter. So my keyboard is not working with this. I'm pushing enter and nothing's happening. So this game is one that seems like it's just not really a good fit for the Pocket. The fact that you need a keyboard and mouse and it's not really working well. I don't think this game's particularly a good fit for the Pocket, at least not right now. So this is another one I'm going to have to take a look at. You can see kind of the theme of the video at the moment is most of these games are not really working well, but there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of games that will load up and run at around 40 frames per second, but then they get into issues. So I think if we can keep working on it and persevering through the issues, there's a lot of potential with Windows emulation on the Retroid Pocket 5. Stardew Valley is quite weird. You can see the little cursor here showing where my button is, what button I've selected, but it kind of jumps and skips around. So as I go left or right, it sometimes jumps and jumps back. It sometimes jumps across two items and back. It's quite strange. It is technically working, but it's jumping around. So as I move around here, it's kind of jumping back and forth everywhere. If I just go down, you'll see sometimes it jumps up. And if I just go up, sometimes it jumps down. So it's really difficult to control. I need to set this up, but I think Stardew Valley will run well. But you're getting the theme of this video is that at this point, I've spent hours on this. I have no experience working with Winlator in particular before, and I've spent many hours on this. And I'm at the stage where a lot of the games are almost working, but there are just different bugs in all of them, whether it's graphical bugs, freezing, controller issues. There's a lot of things to work out with Winlator, but definitely a lot of potential. So for the last one, I want to show you something that runs very well and is a game I loved in my childhood. This is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Power of Chaos trilogy, and they're now all free to download because they're abandonware. So you can just freely download this. We can pick from Kaiba, Joey, Yugi, or the trainer. So let's start with Yugi. You do need to run it in a square resolution, and you do need to also use the mouse input. There's no keyboard and mouse support. So you'll see it's small right now, but I'll make it bigger once it loads up fully. This runs really well. The voice acting in this game is fantastic. Everything about this game is great, and it's perfect for this device as long as you're okay with using the touch control. So there's no way of stretching that to fill the screen. So what we have to do is actually change the screen size itself. So this is the Winlator settings, and if you go to your container settings by choosing these three dots here, and then edit, you can change the screen size. So right now it's at 1080p. If we change that all the way down to 640 by 480 to match the game and click the check mark, now when we launch Winlator, it's going to be much easier to see everything, and the game will scale properly because it's now the correct screen size for the game. I made a mistake. I said 640 by 400 and that resulted in just a black screen. So I've now went back into the settings and changed it to, I think 800 by 600, and now it's running perfectly. So now this is the game I remember from my childhood that I sunk so many hours into, running flawlessly. We don't really have controller support, but then again, this isn't really a controller game. We have to use the touchscreen by moving it like this, and then tapping to click, but honestly, it's not too bad. And it's running really flawlessly. This is probably the computer game I sunk the most time into, the trio of these Yu-Gi-Oh! Trio of games. So having this on something so small is incredible for me. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh! And you've not tried this trilogy, I highly recommend trying it, because the voice acting and the animations are fantastic, and it is now legitimately free because it's abandonware. So I can play Change of Heart and steal his monster, and you'll see the anime style animations whenever I do pretty much anything. I'll turn up the sound and let you listen to it.
That was a good attack.
And also you can hear from the music, there's no stopping or cutting or stuttering, it's very smooth. So as you can see, Windows emulation is really hit or miss at the moment. Mostly miss, to be honest. But there's a lot of games that are very close to working. I just need to get through some stutters or freezes. I'm honestly very impressed with Windows emulation on this device. I didn't expect to be emulating Windows games this easily. So if we can get through those stutters and pauses, we're looking at a really nice little Windows emulation device here. So thank you for watching this video. If you have any tips about fixing the freezes, please let me know. And again, if there's anything you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments down there. Please subscribe, and I'll see you again very shortly with more Retroid Pocket 5 content. Thank you for watching.